Columcille is named after St. Columba of Iona. And his real name was Colum, C-L-U-M, and he went from Ireland to Scotland to the Isle of Iona in 563 to establish a kind of an outpost for his family and to set up a monastery. We have between 4,000 and 5,000 visitors a year to the land now. They come from everywhere. They come from Ireland, Scotland, Germany, Japan, China. As they feed back to us, they find, first of all, a quiet space, a space where their spirit can dance. And the remarks vary. They write some comments down in the Green Building or in the chapel, and we meet many of them.
We have found over the years that people are searching. Sometimes people are really very troubled. They're upset by many different reasons, something personally in their life, something happening in the world, and they really come for a bit of quiet, a little bit of peace. And I think pretty much that's basically the opportunity to create a place and space for that to happen. And then people are just drawn to something that's different and unique, something that they might never, experience elsewhere.
Bought the old house here and dedicated it as a place by the side of the road for retired senators and re-elected saints, and set the land aside out here for the unfoldment. I had been going to the Isle of Iona since my first visit was in 1957. And my second visit was in 1967, to be exact. I was there at a meeting with directors of centers in Europe, and I was a member of that group. And because it was a semi-religious meeting, it was rather boring, and I hiked off across this wee island, which is 3 miles long and 1 mile wide, up on the side of the mountain. And I had gone with gear, and it got warm, took my cloak off, laid down, and fell asleep on the side of the mountain. And in that dream, I found myself asleep, but I looked, and around me was a circle of stones, and behind them another circle of stones, and behind them another circle of stones. And the inner circle kept coming towards me, and I was scared, because they had no faces, and they were stones, standing stones with kind of ragged material on them. And the closer they got, they were kind of getting in on me, the more frightened I became. And finally, when they got right up to me, they leaned forward to look down at me on the ground. And all I could feel from them and for them was love. The fear had gone. I awakened, and there are no standing stones left of Iona. And I logged the dream kind of shakingly and went away. Had been always fascinated by the Isle of Iona and by St. Columba, but I never could figure in these standing stones. But I returned in 77, having purchased this place in late 75, 76. And upon my return, I found myself falling in love with stones. And the dream that I'd had 10 years before came really shattering out at me. The one thing that did happen upon return in 77 was my compulsion that I could do nothing but stand stone.
And if you find me wanting, take my hand.
we had a sense that this might have been a sacred place for the Lenni Lenapes, the ancient Indian tribe that resided in this area. When we were looking at the site where we were going to build the chapel, we were out there in the middle of February that year, and we were standing in about a foot of snow with Bill and myself and two other individuals, and we got to the site and we just got quieted, and all of a sudden we just felt as if we were standing over an old-fashioned hot air register, because just heat just was radiating, and we were all dumbfounded. We couldn't believe what we were feeling. So I think what we felt was that was just an affirmation that this was an acceptance of what we were, because we had already mentioned to the land what we were intending to do.
First of all, we built the chapel out here. I say we, my associate Fred and I. And we built it with a big boulder in the center of it. And it's got 100 ton of stone in it. He resigned what he was doing. I had to resign what I was doing. I had a heart attack. By that summer, we built the chapel and moved 100 ton of stones and got healed, so to speak. Never healed in the head, though. After that, I felt very prompted. I couldn't get the standing circle of stones out of my consciousness. Even though we built the chapel, which is named after St. Columba, with a big boulder, I still couldn't get the stones out of my mind, and I had to set them. And that's the reason the first circle of stones were set. And then set the second circle. And then began to set just what I had seen kind of in my mind's eye. The large storage gate at the top of the glen beyond the chapel was set in honor of the guardian of the north wind of Iona, who was a great being that I met. And so we set a great trilithon to him, or to it. And that's how Columcille Megalith Park got started and continued to unfold. That's why we call it a land of myth and mystery. Come dance with the stones, let the spirit dance with you. People ask me the question, what do they mean? Well, I know what they mean to me and to some, but I go find out. Go hug a stone and hear it. One of the things, too, we set the land aside here as a kind of a sacred playground for spirit, respecting the land, the trees, the nature. And there's a lot of stories about it. When you look at the standing stones in Europe, and there's many of them in the British Isles, the standing stones are a lot of theses. Why Stonehenge was set, why Avebury, why Callanish was set. And I visited most of those sites, and we don't know why they set them. We have a lot of conjectures about it. I have a feeling they set them up there and they said, left a footprint, and they said, figure it out. 3,000 years later. Some of them are first stood 7,000 years ago. They're in on the Iberian Peninsula in southern France, down in around Carnac. And people are drawn to them. But sometimes they said when the stones, and I've asked the question too after I stood these stones, I'm figuring out why were the other ones stood. I knew why I stood these, because of a dream. And I wondered why they were set, the old ancient ones. So I took a few years to go and check them out, so to speak, after the fact, and read some things, only find that nobody knows exactly why. They were set perhaps at a historical moment. They were set maybe because somebody had a dream. I suspect that people stood stones for They said wars. They stood for something that happened to some of them. When I think of the energy it took to set some of these, well, like at Karnak, originally there were 5,000 stones in straight lines. There's still 2,300 left. Been there for about almost 4,000 years. Now, why would you, and the energies it take, I know what energy it took to set the stones here. You set that many, you've got to be pretty, you got to have good organization. And it didn't happen all in one generation. The same thing with Columcille, which is a lovely series up there in the, off the coast, up in the Outer Hebrides and Scotland. Some of those stones were set, they actually carved into the bedrock and like a socket, and they set these stones in the socket, 60 of them in a circle. Well, the Celts made circles, and there's been a lot of discussion about circles. Always the circle stones, there was always a stone in the center, because the Celts saw the centering stone as the navel of creation. You have to have a navel if you're going to have creation. And the circle stone, which happens to be a circle, is, even though the standing stones, the circle is very feminine. The standing stones may look phallic, but the circle is feminine. And you bring the two together. Now, why in Karnak they set them in straight lines, I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But there are many circles of standing stones and around the world. In fact, there are about 50,000 standing stones around the world they've discovered that were set at different times in different cultures. Why people set circles of stones, I know why I set them. And I figured, you know, they knew why they did it. So anyway, that's the best way to, as a Celtic design, it's like we built the chapel, first building. I drew the design of that chapel at Iona. I was over there, I was sitting up on the beach, and I said, we're going to build a chapel, but I don't want a square chapel. I don't want a round chapel. I don't want a rectangular chapel. So I decided to simply drew 6 sides, and brought the design back and had an architect straighten it out, and we built up a 6-sided chapel. People would come in and say, "Don't you know the meaning of 6?" I had the foggiest idea what the meaning of 6 was, honestly. Then I found out all snowflakes are 6-sided. So are the beehives, and of course that was sacred to the Celts. As often as it is rung, may we celebrate our harmony with all creation and be reminded of our value by virtue of our being alive in this playground of myth and mystery here at Columcille. Now, swing this for him. We do Celtic celebrations, yes. We do we used to do 8 a year. We're doing fewer of them. We do Beltane, and we had some great pictures last year. A maypole, lots of kids singing, dancing around the pole, and we do a celebration of that. We do summer solstice, and that's a lot of music and so forth. And then we do Samhain, which is Celtic New Year's, and that's always the largest of the celebration. This last year was magnificent, and the whole land is lit with. We used little lights and torches and bag lights, whatever they call them, and there were about 250 lights around. And every year it's a theme, because in the Celtic calendar there are 13 months, and you have your 12 months, because your leftover days of the moon cycle gives you a few extra days. So they always call that 13th month the month of the dead. And so what happens after that period, you have time end, and then you don't have any time, and then it starts again on November 1st. It ends somewhere around the 26th, 27th of October, and it's no time. And of course, out of that is where Halloween comes from, All Saints' Day in the Christian Church. So we celebrate no time here. And that's the St. Orange Feast Day. We do Samhain on the 31st night of the 31st. And 3 years ago, we had a year off of no time. And then we had a Samhain celebration in which we brought everybody back into time. And we had a huge rope. And we had everybody carry the rope, and we pulled these 250 or more people up through the glen, through Thor's Gate, brought them back into time. So this year I apologized for having done it. And so we took a piece of the rope, and we took it back, and we burned time. And we burned it. We burned literal time. And that was how we celebrated at this year. And it was a lovely time, lots of people. We were concerned not just doing the old Celtic ones, but how do you alchemize them into the present? Because you got a history and a myth here. How do these stories play into the story? And so how do you create a celebration that celebrates? 2 years ago, a year ago, we built a new bridge, and it was the bridge to the other world. 3 years ago, we put a big the wind harp and the bell tower, and we celebrated no time with a new wind harp, and we had torches on top of the bell tower looking like something out of King Arthur's court. It always looks that way. And so we do different things at different, but we do have celebrations. And then we have concerts around the pond, music in the summertime. Most of the Celtic things are very centered around creation and seasons. And don't forget, in every tradition, it's a seasonal celebrations. And so you get the cycle of celebration of the new seed, the birth of life, and so forth, right down to going into winter after winter solstice, which is you're hoping the sun will come up. Don't forget New Grange and Ireland is built with this long channel back into the cave, which, when the sun comes up on winter solstice, shines 125 foot down into it. It's been going on for a while, and it's true in every culture.
I call to the east, the powers of the east, the divine breath blowing upon the embers to light the spark of creativity. I call upon the powers of the south, the flaming force of desire that transforms our inspiration into dreams. So be careful what you dream. I call upon the powers of the West, the sacred wells of tradition that give form to our dreams. And I call upon the powers of the North, the sacred space where the distant dreams of our innermost souls can manifest itself. I call upon the powers of the center, the divine spirit manifest in the physical world. May our dreams so manifest themselves.
one day I was taking one of my daily walks, and I felt somebody nearby that was really troubled. And I didn't know who the person was, and as I got closer and closer, I could really just pick it up. And this person was at an event at Kirkridge, and basically was taking a walk on the land and really trying to sort out a decision. And somehow that we were given an opportunity to maybe spend 5 or 10 minutes. I don't remember the conversation and how it went, because I think sometimes when you speak from your heart, it's not something that you pre-plan. But I got a note back from her about maybe 6 weeks later, and she really thanked me for the opportunity of being on the land and also then being with me, because apparently however the conversation went, I enabled her to make a decision that was the right decision. That's one example. I think just sometimes the questions that sometimes people have, we probably, perhaps maybe only touch maybe 10% of the people that come on the land, because a lot of people really are just wanting to be totally by themselves, and we respect that. That's one story, the instance that really touched me, and apparently I said, well, I hope that it happens again and again, and it might, but I don't necessarily get the answer back, but I'm not really doing it for a response other than hopefully that whatever the dialogue that I have with somebody, it'll leave an impression or inspire them or whatever it is that I can do.
I find most of them are on a journey. Every myth and every religion seeks to answer the same questions, Where did I come from? Why am I here? What should I do with my life? And what's going to happen to me at death? We all answer these same questions at different times in our lives. I answered it one way at a time in my life. I answered it differently now. I bet your story grows. So that's why I would say, come dance, let your story grow.
I think that it's always here for people to come for whatever they need, or whatever they're looking for. People finally are led or brought here or somehow find it when they're ready, because they're ready. And then some people will never find it because they might never be ready. And it's not a value judgment, it's just everybody has different outlook about life, and they have different needs and wants. So a percentage of the population, we maybe have between 4,000 and 5,000 people a year wander through. And basically, we just want people to primarily just respect the place, bring what you want to bring of yourself, take what you can take. What we did when we put the land in an easement, but basically the stone settings that were on the land, that was going to be it. There wasn't going to be change of the land. The trees will stay as they are. But basically pretty much for it to be as it is. I don't think that there's anything that I've envisioned or have felt that anything needs to be done to enhance it, change it, but just basically one of the reasons why we set the endowment fund up was that the funds could, just hold it in perpetuity, so it'll always be here for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and however many generations to come.
On a spreading chestnut tree, the funny people all are free. Stand beside me, I'll take your hand. Stand still while you can. And if you find me wanting, take my hand. Stand still while you can.
too far.